My name is Mikey, everyone. Hi. Um, I'm part of the Triality team. So we're working on a public goods project for educating and challenging Web3 developers. We started off primarily in the Starknet ecosystem, but we're pretty interested just generally across the board. We have a lot of tech though surrounding how to onboard developers into Starknet and Cairo 0.0 blank, and now Cairo 1.0. Full disclosure, Cairo 1.0 is having us kind of revamp a lot of our tech stack. So some of the features we had in Cairo 0 are not available, but they're coming soon. So I don't know how many people here are new to Starknet ecosystem, and if you are, welcome. Feel free to ping me. I can shoot out my Telegram at the end. Feel free to ask me any questions. Feel pretty quick to respond and help out on any developer needs. But we have like a couple of different things we do. We had we kind of have a leak code style challenge questions for people who are trying to learn or contribute to our site. So you can post challenging like Cairo questions. We're doing that in the process right now for Cairo 1.0. And then we have a couple of education courses that are fully browser based. So if you or friends that are new to the ecosystem want to just try something out, you just hop online, start playing with it, and instantly earn NFTs and badges. So we'll claim a badge, and for now it's all like gasless, and you don't have to pay for anything. We've been helping out in the Starknet ecosystem for a little over almost a year and a half now. No, not yet. Yeah, you're good. No, we've been helping out for a little bit over a year now, and it's been a really awesome to see all the growth. So some things that are happening. When we first joined, there was like only a low hundreds of numbers of developers in the community. Now there's like thousands in the Cairo dev chats and stuff, and a lot of active contributors. So it's obviously a really good time to get in. And as the tech is getting more and more robust, people are joining. So the number of monthly commits, weekly commits is going way up. Number two, Cairo is moving from Cairo 0 to 1.0. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, we'll kind of jump in and discuss the improvements, enhancements, and kind of this process that's been going on. Because for people who are new, I know it's like kind of intimidating if you jump in any of the docs. There's like so much going on. Eventually, we're going to get to regenesis, which is where all of the Cairo 1.0, Cairo 0 contracts, unless they're upgradable, will no longer be able to be used. So everyone needs to either upgrade their contracts or move over to Cairo 1 to be in mainnet. And lastly, talking especially with a bunch of the guys at Atlanta class, who are awesome and hilarious, we're going to see some massive improvements in transactions per second. Looking for a huge upgrade. Right now, we're like low ones, and we're looking to break through the 100 TPS in just a couple months. So that'll be really cool. Hopefully, my personal opinion, I hope we can start competing with the optimistic rollups sooner rather than later. And I think that'll drive a lot of momentum to start there. So one thing, just kind of to familiarize everyone with what's going on in the upgrade from Cairo 0 to Cairo 1 is everything is still going to compile down to the Cairo assembly. And so basically nothing's changed at the most fundamental layer of like the assembly language, which is cool, meaning that the foundation, the bedrock of what they built was really good, but very glaringly, the language was very difficult to code in via Cairo 0. So they put this thing called Sierra, the safe intermediate representation, in between the Cairo assembly and the users. And there's a couple of benefits for this. And I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts from a bunch of the team members, so I've been diving pretty deep. But a couple of them that are pretty cool are, one, you now have a lot more decentralization with this approach. For one, you're able to revert transactions. So previously, you basically, now everything can be handled gracefully. So like if else's to make sure transactions are able to be reverted. But previously, you could have someone just continue to attack a approver, and all it would do is it would spend a sequencer and it spend all its resources basically over and over and over trying to prove something, and they wouldn't be getting any money for any of the work they did because at the point of reversion, nothing was being noted against what they were doing. So with this, we get reverted transactions, a natural protection against denial of service, DOS attacks, and decentralization in the sense that now more and more people will be able to contribute to the prover and everything once it's fully open source and able to run on any machine. So some cool things about Cairo 1. So for anyone who programmed a lot in Cairo 0, unfortunately, a lot of what you did is being totally overhauled. But Jason's like, I know. We now will have like loops, ownership, generics, traits, and much more. So this is really following the Rust-like model. So if you're familiar with programming in Rust, this is going to make life a lot easier. Some just general benefits that we saw were, in Cairo 0, you have these things like revoked references, which people aren't really familiar with. So all of a sudden, you're dealing with these new coding paradigms that seem totally foreign. We weren't really able to represent objects well. It was all just like pointer-based, kind of felt like C. So it's much more difficult to construct your structs. It's much more difficult to just generally loop through arrays and do more complex tasks. Now we're able to have, array instantiation and just general vectors, all these things that make life a lot easier. But in addition, instead of having to recurse, we have loops. So it gives like natural, better coding practices and standards. Ownership, I think it's pretty interesting. And if you're familiar with Rust, it's like, it feels really comfortable that, every value has an owner in Cairo, and it helps a lot with security around accessing particular variables and references in your code. So I think obviously there's some benefits there. Generics, as opposed to just general like built-ins, are really cool now that have been introduced into Cairo 1, where you're able to do things generically. It saves a lot of reusable code. You can build really powerful things like iterate me through this array of blank, as opposed to having to specify all your terms. And for new developers or experienced developers, I think traits and trait implementation is super awesome because it just helps define this blueprint of what you're trying to do and really makes your code legible and allows for other people to follow and for you to write really reusable and composable code. So many cool things that are now being introduced in Cairo 1, and pretty happy to dive in. So we had built a cool analogy. So I think like a while ago, we built a Pascal's triangle building pyramids, for Cairo on Triality in Cairo 0. In Cairo 0. And we made an exercise for Cairo 1.0. Unfortunately, the loops and recursion, we were running into some issues while deploying because some issue with Protostar now being involved with SCARD, and we spent like a day trying to figure it out. So unfortunately, I can run through some of the code if people are interested, but I was going to have everyone pull out their computer and try to have a crack at a challenge problem and see if you can get it. People what Protostar is? Oh yeah, so Protostar is one of the God, it kind of does everything, but it's a big testing framework, infra framework that allows you to compile your code, run your code, and they're integrating more and more across other projects. So pardon me if I'm missing some things that they do. But yeah, they're really, they're the testing framework we use because it was actually so easy for us to embed it into our node server, and then we can just take user compiled code and then just run it. And they automatically gather all the tests and whatnot, but it just so happened with their newest release, they have this integration with Scarb, and it's a kind of painful deployment. So we're going to probably be pushing that back a couple of weeks for the Protostar 11 build. But yeah, I'll walk you guys through the site just to get everyone a little bit of exposure, and then happy to take any questions. And then, yeah, but basically our site's called Triality. I'll show you guys how to navigate around and what you can do with it, and see how many badges you can earn. They're all gasless, so you don't have to pay for anything. And we'll have like a record of all of that in the future if we end up doing airdrops or anything. And yeah, feel free to leave us some feedback, either Triality or dguys123 on Twitter. And let's go to code. So let's start with, so we have this education site. Right now, we're going to be adding more and more Cairo 1 courses. So to front run Amit's question at the end of this is, if you have any interest in contributing, we're definitely looking for anyone who wants to contribute like course ideas, education work that they think would be cool. Our end goal, so we created like a teaser of this thing called Cairo Mummies last year, which we're going to fully develop once Cairo 1 is ready to be like a competitor to Crypto Zombies, if anyone's ever done that in Validity. So if anyone has any cool ideas, they want to make courses, they want to make challenge questions, 100% reach out to me. I would love to get people on board. It's super fun working with other people. So you can come into Starklings, and just as an example, you know, it's a super simple example. We're following the general framework of Starklings, which is kind of like the Rustlings exercises. You just log on, just connect your wallet, and then when you come in, you can like we start super basic. So if you haven't done any Cairo coding before, if you go through this whole course, you'll definitely feel super comfortable starting from ground zero and then being able to code consistently. And there's a couple great resources like the Cairo book and whatnot that you can use in conjunction with this. But sorry, I've just done this before, and we have a feature, so if you answer the question correctly, it'll save your progress. But basically, this is what the question would look like. This is a super simple exercise where it's basically asking you to see if you can make the test pass. It's calling a main function. There's no main function. And you can see at the bottom, we give like a whole stack trace of what happened. So if you just fill in everything correctly, then you'll be able to pass the exercise and move on to like more and more challenging questions. At the end of each module, if you've completed all of your tasks, so in this one you can see I only done one, I'm not able to go on to that last step to claim my badge. Our implementation for like badge claiming is super simple. It's just we have an authorized bot that's able to mint transactions users can't, and then it just verifies you haven't claimed, your address hasn't claimed that badge yet, and if so, we'll mint it for you. Right now it's just on testnet because we don't want to pay a bunch of money. And then, yeah, this is the problem that we created in this exercise, which is basically like solving the Pascal triangle in Cairo 1. And we gave like a blueprint of how you do that with functions using Pascal's triangle. And then you go through and recursively create your rows and recursively fill in your rows column by column. So one funny thing that we wanted to make sure, because I come kind of from an education background, just to make sure people can't cheat. If you try to do these exercises, like we have it, so if you modify any code in the entire lesson outside of where you're allowed to, it will instantly complain at you and it won't let you submit and say like your default encode has been modified, etc. So
can I not use ChatGPT?
I don't think you can use ChatGPT on this one. I think you're going to be in trouble. But yeah, so I'm hoping I can actually release this and give people like a fun, challenging problem to try. So I don't know if we necessarily need to go through the coding live. We could do it if people are interested. Anyone wants to go through. But yeah, that's pretty much our platform. We're open to any ideas and suggestions. The premise of our platform is for all the users to learn and get better. It's a public goods project. So yeah, feel free to give us feedback, and we'd love to work with anyone. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some fun projects, some fun problems released soon. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions about migration from Cairo 0 to Cairo 1, or anything about our project, feel free. Thanks.
How has it changed? How has it changed some of like the iteration rates from like when you were coding Cairo to Cairo 1? Like, you know, assuming that you implemented Pascal's triangle in Cairo 0, like, what are the different kind of performance changes or just workflow changes?
I mean, I think Cairo 1 has a huge number of benefits. One is like the amount of code generally you have to write is much less because you don't necessarily have to like keep recursing down functions.
Right.
And then also just simple things like for something like this Pascal triangle, the ability to easily create new arrays that are mutable and then append things to them, be able to get a length, as opposed to in Cairo 0, there's like the ongoing question of I'm trying to store a struct, and do I store the length in the 0th element, and then like everyone was basically had like a trick to things, and now there's all these it's all just standards, basically like dealing with Rust. So one, I think it's a lot quicker because collaboration's much simpler, and looking at other people's code makes a lot more sense. But two, a lot of the out of the box things they have are just much nicer to deal with, and you don't deal with other references, but everyone's nightmare from the last Cairo 0.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like a lot quicker, and I think the documentation is getting a lot better as well. We have like the books, the guides, and then obviously we're building these teams like Node Guardians have like education online as well. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do that's all getting bolstered to like really get ramped up quick and be like proficient, which is awesome.
You mentioned Sierra earlier, and when you're developing stuff, is there a need for a developer to be coding in Sierra or against?
Not at all. That's the nice thing. So it's totally in between what you're doing and what the Cairo Center is. So yeah, no need to learn a new thing. It's just cool to know about the infrastructure.
That's actually one of the coolest things about Rust compared to C is because of the ownership model, amongst others, it kind of abstracts away a lot of things that you as a developer can mess up. This kind of like gives you a set of rules to live by. And if you live by them, which you really don't have a choice, you can't mess those things up in, say, memory, sectors, and such. And so Sierra is like something that saves your, like, it's a safeguard. Basically, that means safe intermediate representation, but something you don't ever have to worry about. It's not like Solidity, where if your code is not optimized, you have to pull assembly opcodes and shove them into your Solidity file or anything like that. It's just like it takes care of itself.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
And is the like kind of debugging process? I hear it's a lot clearer in this new round where
Totally. Yeah, I mean, even just in our process of like what we're able to get from log really quickly, the whole like printing and everything is just a bit more standard.
right.
So you don't have this like you have to pass around this built-in output pointer. And then, like, it was a bit challenging, and it just made everything like really verbose, right? So now all of a sudden you're just following like pretty standard paradigms, and yeah, it definitely makes things a lot easier. Like my caveat is I definitely recommend people start playing around with it, but I also say don't try to be too much of an expert like right now. Just like go hack away, have fun with it because things are still changing. So trying to like optimize someone into the business and you're like bytecode optimizations. I'm like, don't worry about that. Or just like let's go build, because I think in the next couple months we'll have like a pretty stable language. But for now it's still like there's still certain things that are like pretty difficult to achieve, and like finding really good documentation can be right now, but it's getting better.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about Sierra versus say therapies. Is that makes a bit more
Yeah, so the way that like I think about it is like it's now like a separation of concerns much more between like what is it, the approver and the yeah, exactly. So you're basically you're not having everything go through one layer where so many things can happen. I'm trying to remember what Henri was talking about.
So basically, when you wrote Cairo's code, oh wow, more people. Maybe the same people who were already. No. Anyway, so when you write in the Cairo zero code, yeah, it's going to file up your code, right? And when you run your program, that's that code, and say for instance, say state update that you wrote in your program did not go through because your code was faulty, right? So faulty code cannot be proven by the STARK protocol. That's just not how our architecture is, right? So what would happen is you could write a faulty transaction and have the sequencer and the prover spend a few computed time figuring out all of that, and basically wasted both of those and not get paid for it, and then end up with basically huge attack vector. Because what if someone just pumps our system full of 40 transactions? Well, then we spend all of our resources figuring out that they're wrong and not being paid for it and bottlenecking all the other transactions. So what Sierra does is basically it's a way to prove faulty code is actually faulty using the STARK protocol. So what we do is with say a bad transaction or a bad program, we convert it into this new programming language, which is Sierra, where say for instance, if a loop or a condition is returning throwing an error, right? Instead of throwing an error, it's going to zero. And so all of a sudden the program executes. It doesn't throw an error and quit, or your compiler doesn't wait. So you're able to generate code for this particular program and charge someone who's giving you a bad transaction for a failed transaction, which is what Ethereum has been doing already, right? So it allows us to prevent the chaos vector on our forwards. It becomes cool.
Yeah.
So basically, Sierra makes everything cool, no matter how good or bad your version is. Or not bad, but like how likely to
Like the
toss
convert.
or fail.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Question.
So what are your three Cairo 1.0 resources right now?
Top 3 Cairo 1.0 resources would be Cairo.
Can you show me the Cairo book? Yeah, I'm so proud I just pushed something to it yesterday.
You did. Nice. Well, that was the bad.
You become,
You know the best part is no one's getting paid to build a Cairo book. I swear, we're making it happen as a company. We're getting people who are working on it.
but
Case in point today.
it's great because I've already started to see documentation more proof than showing.
And so
Yeah,
this
here's-
is totally open source. If you pull up the GitHub, the Cairo book, and it's literally just like that GitHub handles, you'll be able to see all the ADOC files, docs, and make edits and push. And then already myself or someone else will review and update. So it's that simple.
And then also, I was going to say, Millen Cermak, it's a really good chiropractic, a bunch of examples online. So I actually think these are done really well. Yeah. So if you have any, you can definitely check this
There's
out.
a chiropractic stuff.
Yeah. Pretty sweet.
I didn't know that.
Chiropractic.
Old class one. Could you throw all of this in the
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Right.